Hello and welcome back to Voices of the Great War. I'm Liz Watson. Today we're going to be reading the second portion of Hook's letter to Helen. And if you recall, Hooks is the surgeon. He is from the United States and he has just recently arrived in England. So we're going to go ahead and resume Hook's letter, and this portion of the letter begins Sunday, June 3rd, 1917. Dear Helen, it's been raining cats and dogs all day. We all slept till about noon and have just been sitting around since. And we didn't want to miss this chance to get out and see the country. The country around here is really beautiful, truly English. Hedgerows with little rich green fields and little pockets of woods and cute stone cottages. You'll see a village half hidden by trees with a church spire rising up out of the middle. The Chicago Northwestern unit came in today after a rather exciting trip. They had to put back at first on account of an accident during target practice which killed 2 nurses and injured another. Then they saw several submarines and had 3 torpedoes fired at them. One just missed the bow of the boat. I suppose we'll leave here shortly, perhaps tomorrow night. But nobody seems to know anything about it. We'll all be very sorry to leave Blackpool. We sure have had a great time here, but then we all want to get down to work. This town is the center for the RAMC. They're all over the place. It is very rare to see a man of military age who is either not in a uniform or wearing a military medal. You see kids of 16 wearing RAMC uniforms. There are lots of wounded soldiers here too. They wear a suit of pajamas and their military cap. Business and civilian work is taken care of mainly by women, boys, and older men. Practically every girl and woman is doing work of some kind, mainly in munitions plants. Then Hooks pauses and he resumes the letter on Wednesday, June 6th. Still going along about as usual, drill most all morning. They're giving us some stretcher drills now. The bunch are up now getting their 3rd shot of typhoid. I've had mine, so I came back. At 3 o'clock, Captain Ironman is going to give us another lecture on how to take temperatures and count pulses. Oh Lord. We got our belts and rolls with canteens, etc., which we wore on our backs yesterday, and tomorrow morning we have to make a 4-hour forced march with them. Joy. I wonder how long it will take us to recover. Some of the fellows can't march a mile or 2 without raising a howl. Monday, we got back at the Philly bunch, 7-1, whereby we regained considerable amounts of money. We may have another game later. We all thought that we'd get out of here yesterday or the day before, but the way it looks now, we may stay another week. Still, that doesn't worry us a bit. We enjoy sitting around and thinking of the fellows back home taking their finals and cussing themselves for not having gone with us. Have you had your picture taken yet, kid? Please don't forget to send me one. You know I haven't any of you. I don't want to take those snapshots along, and it's lonesome here without you. I suppose you'll be having your vacation soon. Don't forget all about me while you're gone. And if you don't get this letter until you're back, try to recall me to memory. Then Hooks pauses there and he begins again on Thursday, June 7th. We just heard that we leave here tomorrow, so I guess this will finish the letter. We don't know where we're going. Expectations run all the way from the French front to the South Sea Islands. The Lord only knows, and he doesn't seem to be very sure about it. I'm enclosing a photo of our bunch at 88 Albert Row. Some mob, yes? I don't know if the censors will let it come through, though. Our scheduled 4-hour hike didn't come off. It was raining hard all morning. First time we've been glad to see rotten weather here. We rather hate to leave the old place now, especially as we have no idea where we're going. But we are all anxious to get down to work, and it does make you feel peculiar loafing around like this. I'm afraid I'll have to stop here, have to write a few letters home. My dear, don't forget to write me now and then, and try to think of me once in a while. It won't be easy out here away from you. Goodbye, dear, and don't forget that I love you. Hooks. So from Hooks's letter, we know that he's about to leave, and we also, I think we can tell, or we feel, or it's easy to feel, that he is frightened that there has to be some fear that this might be the last letter he writes to Helen, and he wants to make sure that he knows how much that he loves her. And I really feel that coming from that last portion of the letter. And I'm sure, especially after what happened to the Chicago unit with the 3 torpedoes and almost with their boat almost being hit, I'm sure that also again brings it into reality, the fact that they could be wounded, or they could be killed just merely going to their destination. So a little bit about the nursing. So we did hear, sadly, that a few of the nurses were killed and during a practice, and one was also injured. So nurses during World War I, they were instrumental in saving lives, and they risked their lives as well to do this. And one particular instance that I would like to talk about is the torpedoing of the transport ship Marquette. So this actually occurred, and it was 10 New Zealand nurses were killed during this incident. So at the time, the transport ship Marquette, they were transporting wounded men, and there was a nurse. It was staffed by nurses. They were on board, and typically wounded and medical personnel, they were on hospital ships, clearly marked hospital ships. But in this particular instance, they were not. They were on a transport ship. And the reason why that's significant is the hospital ships were not supposed to be targeted by the enemy. So the theory is that had they been on a marked hospital ship, it never would have occurred that they were torpedoed. However, again, they were on a transport ship, the transport ship Marquette, and they were sailing through the Aegean Sea on October 23rd, 1915. And the Marquette, it was torpedoed by a German U-boat. And 10 of the nurses lost their lives during this incident. A few of them, unfortunately, they were actually being lowered in a lifeboat at the time, and another lifeboat was coming down at the same time and actually came down on top of their lifeboat, and a few of them lost their lives in that manner. Some of the others passed away from exposure. They were in the water for hours, reported up to 8 hours by some, but they were in the water for hours waiting for rescue. So some did die from exposure. Others died helping and trying to save and do what they could for the wounded men and those that were in the water. They gave everything. They made the ultimate sacrifice, those nurses. They were that dedicated. So I do have a list of the names of those nurses. Marion S. Brown, Isabel Clark, Catherine A. Fox, Mary Gorman, Nona M. Hildyard, Helena K. Isdell, Mabel E. Jameson, Mary H. Ray, Lorna A. Rattray, Margaret Rogers. So those 10 women, they lost their lives during that terrible incident with the transport ship Marquette. And again, nurses were instrumental during World War I. There were actually 10,000 U.S. nurses on the Western Front during World War I, working in casualty clearing stations, working what they called the forward zone, which is like right near the action, where they could have been hit by artillery fire, and they could have been killed or wounded or injured, and some were. Some did pay the ultimate sacrifice, and those nurses, they worked long hours. I mean, more than 24 hours. They were on their feet taking care of the wounded, because if they didn't, then the boys would die, and they had no choice. They had to do it, and they did, and they did it, and they did it over and over and over again for days and days on end. So they were remarkable women, absolutely remarkable. And what I have next to me is actually a nurse's cape from that time period, and you can see the pretty blue color, and it's kind of a rough woolen material. And if we look on the inside, we can see the red, the brilliant vibrant red color on the inside. And the cape was kept on with these little tethers in the front here. And then what I have beneath it is actually, now this is a surgical gown. Beneath it here, you can kind of see the Red Cross symbol there at the top there. And it's in remarkable condition for the age. It's about 100 years old. I mean, it's obviously over 100 years old, obviously. So here's the cuff of the sleeve we can see. But this would be where, you know, a surgical gown that they wore. And also a surgical cap at the top here. And actually beneath the lining of the cap, there's actually, you can, it's actually stained with sweat, so you can see where the nurse, obviously she sweated while she wore that cap. And you can see the stitching in the back there, as well as the hospital's name imprinted on the bottom there. So it's kind of a nice relic from that time period. So that is our episode of Voices of the Great War for today. And next time we'll continue with our letters from Hooks to Helen. And thank you for joining us on Voices of the Great War. I am Liz Watson.